don't have to have anybody to undo. You probably have to have somebody to help you undo what I'm going to teach you this morning. But I want a lot of discussion. I know a lot of you guys are seasoned wood turners. We're going to talk about sharpening, but I need discussion. This is not a comprehensive lesson, right? But I want to generate questions, okay? Because I have my way of sharpening. I learned a lot of it from trial and error, mostly error.
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Did he mess up my shot?
Well, we were getting you from here down. Oh, okay.
Taking a good picture of me is like putting a live chick under a dead hen. It just ain't gonna work, you know. But anyway, we want to generate a lot of questions. I'm not going into a lot of discussion about metallurgy, you know, what metals, because everybody's different. I've got a certain tool that I use, a certain brand tool that I use, mostly, and that's a Doug Thompson because that's what I like. There are others, and I've learned a lot from trial and error. I've learned mostly from you guys, you seasoned turners, Sammy and Phil, and, you know, that's helped me to learn how to sharpen. This is something that we haven't talked about much in the past, and it was brought up. And without a sharp tool, you're not cutting wood; you're tearing wood. And when you tear wood, you're entering into the world of sanding wood. The less sanding you have to do, the better off you are. And my goal in my shop, and I haven't been there in a good while, I'm busy. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to have to put this plug in. I'm ministering at Mercy House now about 3 to 4 times a week. If you want to know more about it, come see me. It's a it's a worthy project. So come see me after this is over with. Anyway, what I like to do in my shop, and I endeavor to do, is to cut it to what we call about a 120 cut. In other words, I'll start sanding with about 120, you know, or less, or a finer grit. Anything after that's because my tools aren't sharp. That's my personal goal. And there's something about sharpening a tool, having a sharp tool. It makes your work better. It makes it cleaner. And to be honest with you, it's safer. How many of y'all ready for safe, right? So we're going to discuss some of these things. There are no dumb questions other than the ones I may ask. We want to discuss it and figure it out. And everybody's different. Everybody, you know, I'm not going to talk to you about what angle my bowl gouge is on. Y'all know why? Because I don't know. I kept it on the same angle that Doug Thompson sent it to me. I keep everything consistent. So that's one of the things about sharpening I want you to think about. Consistency. My bowl gouge, it doesn't matter what size or where it cuts exactly, they all cut exactly the same. The bevel is the same. Consistency is what I'm looking for. Even down to my little detail gouge, it's all the same. And you may differ, you may have your own opinion, and I will honor that for sure. But for me, I use that pretty much the one angle, okay, on everything. You say, well, what about so and so? Well, do it, you know, do what you need to do. I don't use that many tools. I've got a wall full of tools, and I'm not really sure why I've got that many tools. But, they were fun to buy. Come on, I'll just be honest with you. You ladies buy shoes, I buy tools. But the consistency in it makes it easier, it makes it faster. We're going to talk about safety and some clean cuts. It's a good hobby, you know, to have, but you've got to start out right. One of the things we want to talk about is the grinder, and I'm going to hope we can see the grinder here. This is pretty much the way I set my grinder up. It's a slow speed grinder, or you know, it's not a real fancy grinder. In fact, I think I got it from Sam. But this is the setup that I have. Pardon me. It's called the Wolverine, or the one-way. It's the one-way setup. This is what I use. I never change it. I never change the jig that the tool goes on. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. This angle will change if you so desire. I never change mine. And there are advantages and disadvantages, but this is the way I do my shop. So You know, you need to, but there's some certain things about it. The way I set mine up, I use a CBN wheel, and I've also got a aluminum oxide just like this. There's a mathematical formula, it's real easy. It's 742, 742. It's 7 inches from the center here, 4 inches high, and then I've got a mark on my board of 2 inches. I measure the 2 inches here. Y'all see that, right? And every time I come to my wheel, the wheels are opposite on mine, but nonetheless, I had to put a block in this piece right here to get my tool upright. But the point is, it's consistent every time I sharpen. It's the same at midnight as it is at lunch. It's the same, 7, 4, 2. Again, I had to put a block. Now I glued mine in because I didn't plan on moving it. You know, so I've seen people use rubber bands to hold it in. But the point is, it's consistent. I keep stressing that. And we'll talk about the use of this in just a moment. But do y'all see, it's the same. It's going to be the same movement, which is going to produce the same bevel on this tool, which produces the same thing at the lathe because I know how this tool cuts. Am I making sense to you at all? I don't want to, I don't want to talk to you like a fifth grader, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is you've got to have consistency. We want to talk about sharpness for a moment. I've had people to say, well, that's pretty sharp. You can feel it. It's not sharp. I mean, it's got an edge on it. It's like the blades on my lawnmower right now. They are not sharp. So I'm not cutting the grass. I'm beating the grass down, which keeps my wife happy right now. That's important in my world. But I'm going to put new blades and keep them sharp because it cuts and everything else moves better. A slow speed grinder, a 6 to an 8 inch wheel. This is the size that I have. I think that's a 8. I think, is that a 6 or 8? That's an 8. That's what I've got. I've got a CBN on one side, and I've got a white aluminum oxide on the other. I use that for kind of reshape. If I have to reshape a tool, a point tool or something of that nature, that's what I'll use over there. For this, it's strictly for my bowl gouges, spindles, all of that. And we'll get into this for just a moment, in just a second. You're going to find people that they'll have a grinder at 3,450 RPMs, or AAW says you can have a half-inch horsepower is enough. I don't even know what mine is. I don't get into all the technical side of it. But the higher the speed, here's what you got to think about. The higher the speed, the quicker it's going to take the metal off, right? Which is going to produce heat. That's the reason I go with the CBN wheel, is less heat. Now, if you don't have one, buy a bunch of tickets and we'll try to get you one back there. But that's the reason I use it. It's a game changer for me. I'm not really grinding that bevel with that CBN wheel. I think of it more as a polish, and when I keep that in my mind, that keeps me a light touch. We're going to talk about that a little more in depth. But that's the setup on the grinder, and there are a lot of different grinders. There are a lot of different wheels. These are just coming out of my shop. So anybody got any comments, questions? Don, what do you use? What do you have?
CBN.
CBNs. Anybody use the aluminum oxide? Just the white wheel.
I have both, so that's why I'm drawing.
Yeah, and there's a purpose for all of it. Now the gray wheels that you have are pretty high grit. I think they're like 60 to 80 grit. They're aggressive. That's what you sharpen your machete with, or your hoe handle. It's really aggressive. So I don't use that. There's a blue wheel. I think it's actually a finer grit than the white. I don't know what the grits are, but mine's white. It's aluminum oxide. Now when we talk about this, does anybody know what this is?
Yeah,
It's a wheel dresser. Okay, if you're going to use the aluminum oxide, you need a wheel dresser of some kind. And these are at Harbor Freight, they're super cheap. The reason we do that is this. When you put this tool on the face of this wheel, after a period of time, this wheel will become cupped. Okay, so what you want to do is use this. You'll turn the lathe on, the grinder on, and you want this plate, like, it's backwards for me, but anyway, what you'll do It's just barely slide this thing on this plate back and forth until the black marks, you see the black marks on the face here? You want to move it, you're not jamming it, you're just letting it ride until it becomes white again, and that means that the surface is level. Any questions for what I'm talking about?
Tim, could we back up a moment to heat?
Yes.
Okay, the faster grinders, the 3740, I think,
Right,
creates more
Yeah.
heat.
right.
Slow speed creates less heat, and that was the original intent. But with the modern tools, as long as you're not using high carbon steel, it does not hurt. Even if it blues the steel, it does not hurt the temper of the steel. But therefore, most people prefer the slow speed grinders. It takes off less metal, like you said. But with CBNs, either one works.
Yeah, it's personal preference. You know, I had to save up a lot of coins to get a CBN. They're expensive. There's my favorite lady right there, Miss Sunshine. Both of them. How you doing, Miss Cabbage? Miss Ruth? Miss Jen? Did y'all drive up by yourself or you leave the old man out?
He's outside.
He's out. I figured he's out talking. It was good to see y'all.
Going back a little bit,
Yeah.
Tim, do you have a tape measure up there to show that 742?
I hope I do. And I don't know that this one is set at the 740.
Something that can simulate it.
Let's see if this side would be the best. Let's do this side, yeah, because this is good. I come from the center, and this one stuck out a little further. It would come to 7, which is right about, it's not an exact. So this would be 7 from here to here,
Okay.
okay? You're gonna have to finagle around with it, you know, kind of. And then 4. From here to the center face, or 4 inches high rather, okay? 4 inches high, this one's a little bit low. So that's the reason I had to put a block in this to get the 4 inches up.
That's from the bottom of the...
From here to here, yes.
To your nut on the wheel.
Well, this is the 7 from the nut here is this way. The 4 is this way.
To the nut. The height.
Yes, to the center, yes, to the center face.
And there, with those measurements, there's some different things. You said you had the same grind as Doug's. You don't do that with 2 inches. Doug's grind extension is 1 3/4.
Where does he live?
Huh?
Where does he live?
Doug Thompson.
Yeah, where does he live?
What do you mean?
What's his location of his homes?
That's the guy you bought the tools from.
I know who I bought. Use one. Hardly ever. I jam the door open with it from time to time. Okay, so you know, you're not talking to the most skilled wood turner here, but these are the things that I've learned by trial and error. The grinder stand, this is pretty much what I got right here. You can build one, you can put it on wood, however you want to do it. The key to it is, I put mine on a roller like this, pardon me, so I can move it around. Everything in my shop has wheels. So you want it steady. You don't want it sitting there tipping and rock, because every time you do, it's no different than your tool rest on your lathe. How many ever dress the tool lathe, the tool rest on your lathe? How many ever you check that? All right, you need to do that as well, and we'll talk about that another day. That tool rest needs to be smooth, because if there's a nick or a bump or a scratch in that tool rest, it's going to put that same nick and bump into your wood. So we dress that. It's the same way with this. If you have a grinder stand that's not stable, you're not going to get that consistency. I mean, it's anything can happen. Okay, so that's the reason we wanted to cover that.
Sam?
Sir. Yes, sir.
On that tool rest, keep your little piece of wax candle next to it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah.
Just swipe it one time, and it's like it's got ball bearings on it.
You got to have all your stuff, all your equipment steady. You got to have it maintenance, and that's something that we've talked about. We may want to do a class one day on lathe maintenance, if nothing else. But the thing is, you want this as solid as you can get it. You know, I mean, you can overbuild it certainly, but we've talked about some turners will take, especially say with the, same as acres. Anyway, say a tool and they like to freehand it. Now, what was the guy that, Matt Monaco? He doesn't use a tool rest. He doesn't use anything. If y'all saw the demo, he's a master at it. But he freehands his.
No tool rest?
Oh, he's got a piece of a tool rest, but it might as well not be there. I mean, he's like this.
You're talking about two rests on the grinder, not on
Yeah,
the lathe.
yeah, not on the leg, but on the
He
grinder.
uses a tool rest on the grinder,
But it's
but
just,
he doesn't use a jig or fixture.
no, it's all freehand. So what happens when you start freehanding? This is a terrible demonstration. What'll happen is, because you're not consistent with your sharpening. Now this is your edge right here. It's pretty much like this. You know, here's up your edge. But what'll happen is, you'll start putting facets. I don't know if you can see that well enough or not. You'll start, it's just inconsistent. That bevel needs to be smooth all the way. So if you freehand it, that's the reason I don't like to freehand. Besides that, it's dangerous. You'll start getting all kinds of undulations here on this is the top side looking down. You'll start getting all kinds of cuts and bevels. This wing will be longer or shorter than this wing. It's just not consistent. It's just not. So we're going to talk about, since we're talking about the grinder, one of the things you need to be very keenly aware of, this is looking at the top, okay? What I do, and I need some discussion on this, I will sharpen, let me use the green, I like green. Can y'all see that any at all? What I'll do is I will sharpen this side, I will sharpen this side, and then I will blend that together, because I'm cutting right here or right here. Very seldom do I, like with a bowl, will I get down into the point. So what happens is, if you sharpen it and don't blend it together, you're going to wind up with one of these. You know, it's not we call it a bird beak. If that's what you want, fine, but I don't like that. Okay, I want mine rounded. It kind of, you just don't want to do that. Okay.
How do you round it?
Well, what I'll do, looking at it like this, I'll sharpen this side. I won't go to the point just yet. Who asked the question? I want to make sure you can see it. Okay.
The point is will disappear too quickly if you really concentrate on it.
I sharpen this side, I sharpen this side, and when I go to do the point, it's just, I just roll it. I just roll it over. I don't sit there and put pressure on it, because what you'll do, you'll start flattening this point out, see? It's this side, and then I just go to the point and just do it like that, just to blend it. That's all I'm doing.
Would show them with the tool in the
Yeah,
rest
because
there.
you're just rotating it, but instead.
All right, y'all,
Yeah,
y'all
that
can
was-
see, what I'll do is this side, no point, I'll come over here and do this side, and I'll look at it, and when I get satisfied with it, then I'll just kind of blend it. Just blend it in. It's sharp all the way around, but I'm just very conscious about making this a bird beak, or making it flat. You want it elliptical. It's a steep curve, but that's how we do it. Now, for some, they would have, they'll take it and do it this. They'll go way around like that. And what you do, you mess up the design on your bevel. It starts rolling over because you roll the tool over. You want this as straight as possible, and match it on the other side. Now, I don't know if I've got a good camera here somewhere. Yeah, here's one. Maybe is this one on, Sarah? Okay.
Put your hand behind it.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all see how that works? This is weird, isn't it?
If you move it, it automatically refocuses, just hold it still.
I've had 3 cups of coffee, that's gonna
He thought he was still.
I thought y'all were moving. Okay, so, with this grind, you don't wanna come way back. There's an Irish grind, there's all kinds of grinds. For me, I don't use all of that. But I don't want that bird beak there either, see? Isn't it weird? Well, all this equipment, I feel like a compound bow. I don't know, it's not used, anyway. Did that answer your question, Gary? Okay, and it just takes time, it takes practice, it takes consistency.
Is there ever a time that, let's say you want to get into a little more detail, that you might want to let the point of that skew be a little bit sharper? Not sharp as in sharp, cutting sharp, but pointy. That's the word, pointy.
For me, if I want to cut a line, I'll use my point tool. I learned this from.
But if you want to bead over that line, just tiny, tiny, tiny.
Yeah, you could. You know, it takes practice. If I'm going to cut a bead, I'm gonna take a risk and grab my skew. You know, and you can cut lines with skews and then come back and just touch it and blend it over. And that's about all I use a skew for, that and only paint and stuff like that. But, you'll have to take the Matt Monaco class on skews and lacer, all that. Yes, sir.
This might be a long-winded question. I'll try to keep it short.
The answer's probably going to be short, so go ahead.
And that'd be perfect. I recently got a set of the little jigs that you use with Ron Brown, setup jigs that you use with the wool ring system. I like the grind that I get on the bowl gouges with it. I ground my best spindle gouge with it, and I hate the grind on it. And it gave me that result, that pointed tip out there. I guess my question is, from some of you more experienced turners out there, how do I widen that flute back out and not have those wings that long with that setup? I hadn't thought it through and or researched it. I figured somebody might have an answer to it.
I'm unqualified to answer your question, to be honest with you. I don't know how you would do that.
Well, I can tell you how I use the spindle gouge. I use the point mainly. The wings don't get a lot of use, period. The point is what you're doing, because you're doing beads and coves. So you're not using the wings on the spindle gouge.
But the configuration on your spindle gouge versus your bowl gouge, that configuration for most of y'all is different. I don't do a lot of spindle.
I would think to round it back out, you'd have to concentrate more on the point of it, Ron.
Right.
Back and forth more on the point and not swing it around on the wings.
Well, most of the time when you're using the wings of it, you're just using them to do a really fine shear cut.
Right.
You're not doing them to turn anything. You're just almost like polishing with that shear cut.
Well, you don't really do that
But
with
it-
a spindle gouge.
My problem with it is that it has narrowed the flute up on the tip so much that it's not an effective cutting tool any longer.
Well, there again, like Tim said, you got to go back and put that tip against the grinder,
Right.
and then just rotate it just a little this way, not around like that.
And feather it back
Around
out.
like that makes
About
it
the
point.
wings are angled inward.
Almost.
Yeah, you've over. I'm not critical, but you've over rotated. The reason I know that, I've done that a lot. Yeah.
And I think it has to do somewhat with the setup that this jig creates for it. Because
Yeah.
I ground it exactly like the instructions call for. I didn't do it once, I did it twice.
Well-
To prove to myself that it was not working right.
Here's where I got lucky.
I won't
You
do
know,
that anymore.
I'd rather be lucky than good, right? I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm a blessed man.
Yeah.
When I started out, I got with guys like Sammy. And we all talk about Sammy, but ladies and gentlemen, he is a regional champion. There's nobody can beat him. There's some like him, sort of, But that's just my opinion, and I'm glad he's outside, because he'd probably throw something at me for talking about it. He's so humble about it. But he started me out right, okay? He started me out with the Wolverine, and I don't, you know, I can't comment to you because this is what I use, it's all I've ever used. But I will say this, one time when we were meeting at McGee, that's back in the day, I had a dog dish I called a bowl, and it wasn't very nice, it was just what it was, but I had all kinds of compression rings inside of it. I didn't know, you know, I didn't know what a compression ring was. So back in that day, we would all get up and do a critique on what, and I said, well, how do I get those compression rings out? Again, Sammy, being Sammy, he said, don't put them in there. And his heart is so good, he later came to me and said, I apologize for that. He thought he had offended me. I thought, no, you helped me, okay? But here's how I learned to get, yes, sir.
What is a compression ring?
I'm fixing to show you. Can you see this board? Can you see this board?
And, yeah.
All right, what? Yes, sir.
Back to your question, Ron, you could always start over with that spindle gouge, flat, just basically take right straight into the wheel and flatten it, and then start sharpening again.
Right, well, it's an expensive piece of steel, and I was
Yeah, I know you.
wanting to further.
Yeah, that does waste
complicate my
metal.
problem.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's that narrow on the front, you may have to do that.
May have to.
Maybe not all the way down, but at least blunt it some to start over.
Don't we hate to take that
Sorry.
expensive steel and turn it into dust? You know, it just makes the tool shorter. A compression ring. Okay, so can you see this?
I can, yes.
Okay, so what happens is, as you bevel this off, get you bevel, you've got a hard edge right here. Okay, it's like this. And what I was doing, not knowing any better, I was using this edge, because Sam said rub the bevel. I was rubbing it, okay? This hard edge, I've got it rounded off here now, but it was, you know, edge. What was happening, and I was not consistent with my control, and this edge was compressing the top of the fibers. It was literally bruising them, breaking them down like this.
Tim, it all goes back to having your tool sharp. If your tool is a little dull, you're going to be pushing it into the wood
And not cutting.
and making the compression ring. If it's real sharp, the tool will be cutting the wood and you won't be pushing it.
You're right. So that's the reason we sharpen them. What I was doing, and Don's right on it, I was pressing, I wasn't letting it cut. I wasn't riding the bevel, I was jamming the bevel. And it was compressing, and I can compress wood as good as anybody. I'm telling you, but I had it down, you know. So. Okay, you see that heel?
Come up closer to the camera. There you go.
Right here?
May not focus that close.
Yeah, you're good right there, Jim.
Okay, the heel has been ground away. That reduces the likelihood of having that problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is, the new term is float the bevel. In other words, you are contacting the wood, but the wood don't know it.
Rotate that tool just a little bit sideways. So where you can,
There.
okay.
There you go. You see
Yeah.
that soft contour? So what I learned to do, that's good.
I
that's
grind
good
mine
deal.
up further than that. It's about 1/8 of an inch is all it is up there.
Yeah.
And then the heel is not there, period.
That's a good
Secondary
example.
bevel's only 1/8 of an inch.
Yep.
It's not much. You're not using this down here, right?
It's the primary.
You're not using this. This is just on the tool to support your bevel.
That's what you're paying for.
That's what you're paying for. So what I've learned to do is, over on my wheel, I would just soften this, you know, just right here. In other words, it won't come down and at a sharp angle bevel, and like it'll do like that. I just roll this edge off of it. Come up here after we teach, and you'll be able to see what he's done. You're using this up here, and not much of it, if you don't know the truth about it.
No, just the very edge.
Just a pinpoint, really, in relativeness. So does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Because you can't listen. Ask me how I know. You can't sand a compression ring out. You can't sand where you've torn it out. It's just not gonna happen. So what you need to do, if you'll cut clean, it'll sand clean, especially end grain. Especially end grain. So that's the reason we do our tools the way we do on that. Here we go. All right, so got that out. Any questions?
Tim, do you freehand that part of it?
Yeah, when we get to this part right here, because I'm not going to use it, I don't care what it looks like, right? So I'll just take it up and just freehand it off. And normally, when I do that, I'll sharpen my bevels on my CBN. But when I'm going to soften that thing up like that, I have it, and I'll just come over here and take it off. You're not going to use it, it's not going to, it's not going to be in your way, just take it off.
You probably don't have to do it every single time.
No. The only time I have to do it is when the tool starts getting shorter, see? And we don't like to grind the metal off, And I was reminded of a story I heard a while back, and I told it, but we got new members, so I'll tell it again, kind of lighten the load here on me. A guy went to his auto parts with his dipstick out of his car. Said, I need a new one. He said, why? He said, this one's too short. He said, it won't reach the oil. So, you kind of have to think this stuff out, right?
Did they show you a new one, Tim?
No, he was kind enough to give me some oil, maybe, Yeah, the dipstick won't reach the oil. So, all right, this is general, very general, generic terms we're talking here. A parting tool has a lot of uses. When you sharpen that parting tool, you're gonna cup it. It's gonna be cupped because this wheel is cupped, and it's not gonna make that much difference because you're just using the edge, right? Y'all with me? So I'll sharpen everything on this because you're just polishing it. That's the way I get it in my mind. I'm not grinding, I'm polishing. But the degree of angle there, and somebody, I want you to speak up, Don, some of you guys that are more into this. AAW says that bevels should be combined around 50 degrees.
Combined bevel? Is that what
That sounds about right to you? I don't know what mine is, it's the same.
I'm like you, whatever works, it makes me feel good.
That's what I use.
It cuts good.
Yeah. But I don't get enough time in the shop as it is, so I'm not gonna take my protractor and look and say, well, that's 42, I meant 43, why is it, my little angle grinder, yeah, it's a new word I learned. You want that tool flat though, and you want the top, if I could draw it out. If you're not careful, your parting tool will look like this. This is from the top side. You want it square across. You don't want it angled. You don't, because it's not going to cut right. It's not going to cut cleanly. So make sure everything's square like it ought to be with that tool. All right, scrapers. The angles they're talking about there is, they didn't even put it on there. Yes, sir.
One other last thing for folks setting up a new jig system. The Wolverine jig you have there, the leg has certain places. Where do you put your leg?
It's on the third notch. It's whatever. I can't tell you what it's on. It's on about that third notch. But what he's talking about, this thing will move, and as it moves, it changes the angle. See, it changes the angle. So
once you get your angle, drill a hole through that and put a bolt in it and leave it alone.
leave it alone.
If you buy a Doug Thompson tool, he sends you a sheet with it, full size sheet. You can lay it, and that's what his grind is. You can lay that on his and set it and lock it down. If that's what's going, there you go, right there.
He used to have it on the website, but I haven't been able to.
I haven't seen it on the web lately. I got this when I got from him, the Doug Thompson. This is his recommendation on this side, and you're free to look at it when I get through, which won't be much longer. His degrees of what he puts it on. This is the tool, just like we got it, and he's got a lot of information on his website. A lot of it. Any questions? All right, I've got the Wolverine one way. This thing here. Who's got a different, anybody got a Tormac system?
I use,
What do you think about the Tormac system?
I really like it. It takes very, very, very little steel away.
Good, they should, amen. Anybody else? There you go.
This is what Doug sends with his tools if you buy them. And this is out of the one that we're gonna raffle off in October. So it comes with it. And he tells you the angles on what he sets his when you buy them. And like I said, on this, you just lay that on here, set it, lock it down if you want to keep his grind.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
But again, stressing
If
consistency.
you give me that, I'll put it on the website and the documents.
Very
I'll
good.
Bring it back to him, go to the tool.
I have a really, really good template that I got years ago, and it was from Carl Ford, was his website. I went out to the website just now, and it's no longer there.
That's right.
But I've got a PDF of it, and I'm going to try to download it. It gives you templates for setting up the Wolverine for Ellsworth grind, Sturt grind, there's a bunch of others. Select, and a couple for Ellsworth, depending on whether or not you have the arm.
Yeah.
The Vera grind.
Okay, so he's talking about the Irish grind, the different kinds of, people's got their name. Bill Raffin grinds a certain way, The reason they do that is because that's what they use. It's what they like. It's what they're comfortable with. There's no gold standard for what grind to use. It's what you're comfortable with. And I wish somebody had told me that years ago, because, I want to buy that tool right there because it's got the Ellsworth grind on it. Well, 2 degrees later, it could be the Irish grind, They're selling tools. Can I be honest with you?
We're all one tool away from greatness.
Yeah, that's what I told my wife. I said, I figured out how to make $1 million doing this wood turning. She picked up, how? I said, I need $2 million worth of tools. Of course, that didn't go over good. So listen, that's just the way it works. Find something that you're comfortable with. Go to, when they have these open shops, that's where you go to learn. This is such a generic teaching, I'm almost ashamed to get it. But you find what's comfortable with you, and there's a lot of reasons. Number one, consistency. Number two, if you're consistent, then you're going to be safe. Okay, I've heard stories, I've never seen it myself. Some of the woodworking places, they'd grind their tool and walking back to the lathe, dropped it and grabbed it. And put 2 sets of stitches in their hand. So consistency promotes safety. And safety keeps you out of the hospital. Amen? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
I keep saying amen because that's all I say all week. Anyway, let's talk about, you talk about taking off too much metal.
Can I back you up just a little bit for
Sure.
you? I'm having a real problem with my beading tool and as well as my little parting tool, 1/8" parting tool, getting that edge perfectly perpendicular to the tool. Tormac doesn't have a deal that helps you do that, and I can't do it on that either. What do you do? What do folks do to make sure?
What I've learned to do for myself, I use this plate. Okay, sir?
Can you repeat the question, because not everybody heard it?
He's wanting to know, how do I keep that angle square like on a parting tool? Did I get that right? It's just a matter of,
Any beading tool, I mean.
we beading tool either way. So when I get to here,
It's all in the angle.
when I'm here to sharpen my parting tool, it's almost like I hate to use the term, but it's almost like a golf swing. Okay? I don't use my arms at all. I lock everything down, and I do that. And you have to watch the top, you have to watch your profile. If you start doing this, trying to I lock everything down as tight as I can get. It's not going to take much. And I'll use my fingers as a guide right here. Just kind of like you do with your tool rest. and you keep it as parallel as you can. Does that help you any at all? Done?
You can also, on that plate there, take you a little bitty square and lay it up on there, and take you a screwdriver or something and mark you a little line to where you can
just lay it on
tool
there,
can
see?
be parallel to that line, and that will help.
See square that way.
Also, you don't want to rotate the tool
That's right.
side to side. You want to keep it perpendicular to the tool rest. Because if you come in at an angle, that's also going to
It's going to throw that angle off on the top, see?
The tip will also be at an angle. So you have to keep it square and perpendicular.
Okay. I mean, these are great questions. I wish you'd ask more. That way I would have to teach less. So, I hope you can all see this. I don't know if you can. Let me get in front of this silly camera here. All right. Again, you've heard me say I'm polishing this bevel, right? I'm polishing it. I'm not grinding it. That, in my mind, I know it's a grinder, and then we're taking the metal off. How do I know when it's sharp? How do I know when to stop? It's very simple. When I see the sparks start easing over the top of this edge, when the sparks come over the top, I'm done. I'm not talking about a cascade of sparks. I'm talking about when I start seeing fire, if you would, the sparks come over this edge. As I'm doing it and I see the fire coming over it, I'm done. I'm well done. Okay, that's just in my mind. That's what I'm watching for, is to see that edge spitting fire, spitting little sparks. When you get it there, when you first see them, I quit because I'm sharp. Anything else, I'm just taking the edge off. Does that make sense? Again, all of these were developed by me. Which ain't exactly always right. So that's just where I'm at. Yes, sir.
One thing that might be helpful, I use with mostly when I'm sharpening a carbide ground a bit with a diamond file, which I always do freehand, which I don't know if it's good or not, but I think it helps. I take a Sharpie and mark the edge
Exactly.
first, and then I can see when I take that Sharpie mark away, I've taken the edge.
You're taking the edge off.
The edge off. Put a new edge on.
That's a good point. I've seen a lot of guys, and I've tried it myself, but I'm so scattered in my shop. I've tried to use a felt tip, to put the black edge on it. And when it goes away, then it's sharp. Yeah, I probably should, but that's just not something that I do anymore. But if you're going to freehand it, that'd be a great way to do it. Talking about sharpening carbide, who uses carbide tools here? The easy cut. Those are great. Y'all hear me? Those are great. I've learned, Ed Lancaster taught me this. I've got a little credit card sharpening. A little diamond, whatever the grit. I don't even know what the grit. I'll put a drop of oil on it. I'll take that carbide tool, place it on there, and I'll just rub it in a figure 8. Just rub it in a figure 8. You're just taking that wire off of it. Just trying to put an edge back on it. And that'll prolong your cutting edge a little while. It won't be indefinite, but it kind of makes it a little better. Anybody got any questions? Bowl gouges, they're saying around 60 to 70 degrees. Everybody's different, so I'm not even going to go into that. Skew chisels are a different animal. All right, skew chisels are a different animal altogether. I'll show you what we've learned here. It's probably not going to clean up the way I want it because I want it to. Are y'all about bored to death? Are y'all, it's like watching paint dry, isn't it? I mean, skew chisels. Matt Monaco took his chisel, skew, and this is not exactly what he does. Lancer does it sort of. Instead of it being at a angle like that, what he does, they'll round it off. This here will be almost square across, and then they come back with it. I don't even know what angle he's at, Gerald. Do you remember?
It wasn't specific. Well, the skews, you don't do a specific angle. Your bevel is twice the width of the tool.
I remember that now, yeah.
And I
So
wanna say it's 25, but I'm not sure.
there again, I'm not even gonna address the SKU other than what I've done. There are different configurations. The guys, Nick Cook is probably one of the world's famous, one of the best guys for the SKU I'll ever see. I mean, he stood here and gave a demonstration, or in our club rather. How many of y'all saw Nick when he came? I mean, what did he do? 7 or 8, 9 different projects, you know, with a SKU. You know,
The rounded he uses when he's taking down wood real quick.
yeah,
You know, say you're gonna do
like a peel cut.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, but it doesn't work as well with the flat. Doesn't work.
I'm not gonna use a SKU chisel. I'm scared. I don't trust me, nor do I trust the SKU
Well,
chisel.
if you just call it, instead of calling it a skew chisel, call it what's the,
Cano.
no, the scraper, negative, you just call it a negative rate scraper.
You could.
And it gets a lot safer when you do that.
Yeah.
Just magically.
Am I covering everything? Yeah, I mean, I'm not covering everything. Are there questions? Have I confused you? Have I helped you? That's a great question. Have I helped you at all? Again, this is like proofreading a phone book, if you don't know the truth about it, you know. But it's a good, what time we got there?
About 20 till, somewhere in there.
Okay.
You got a few more minutes.
Good. I'll get this out of the way. I appreciate you having enough confidence in me to ask me to do this. I use a diamond.
Straw.
Pardon?
You got the short straw.
Well, I'm gonna vote for you for president next year on Canada. But you can take. Let's see if I can find it. I saw Eddie Castellan, Captain Eddie, sharpen a SKU chisel. And what he did, he sits it just on a lathe like that, takes a diamond card and does that. And puts a wire or the burr on the top that he wants to use. You can do that very easily, very simply. Just don't get to rolling it, but just flatten it out. Of course, he's done it probably 10,000 times, so he's good at it. And you can do the other side as well, and leave that burr. You want a burr on it. That's sharp. That's pretty sharp. I know I didn't sharpen it, but it's sharp.
Have you talked much about the diamond cards?
A little bit. Won't you address that? Because I don't have that much.
They're good to touch up your tools instead of having to go to the grinder every time. It's just all my comment was gonna be.
Yeah, and I do it a lot. Just touch it. Just barely touch it. You can buy them at Harbor Freight for a little or nothing, really.
Good ones are gonna obviously be more expensive. Mine has a 300 on one side and 600 on the other side.
You got the deluxe model. I didn't get that.
Where'd you get it?
At the Tennessee Woodturning Symposium from one of the vendors. It's a trend, it's a brand. Woodcraft sells them.
Tommy wasn't here to ask, so I
Woodturning's Wonders also sells CBM cards, and several other people do too, and they make a 180 to 220 and a 360 to 600. And I've got both of them. But one thing to remember when you're using those cards, on the SKU, it's the best thing to do because it saves you a lot of metal. When you do it on a bowl gouge, eventually you're going to have to sharpen down not only to sharp, but you're going to have to get below where you've done that. Because your wheel is leaving a concave grind. And when you do the card, you're taking that concave grind off and making it flat. When you put it back on the wheel, it's got to regrind the concave grind. So you're not really saving any metal, but it saves you a little time, is all it does.
Yeah.
Because that's when I first started using it, I was thinking, oh, this saves metal. It doesn't, really.
I don't have a card, but it's just block wood, but I do on mine. So I just put it on there flat with your finger so it's on the flat, and then you can just run it up to get your angle. Because you don't want to go off of it, so if you just put your finger, right, if you just put your finger on there, you can get a feel for it, and then you can watch what you're doing.
Again, you're polishing.
Yeah.
If that helps you.
And it'll touch it up as long as you aren't hitting a chuck or a nail or something in the wood. But just if you want a quick touch up, it is easy. course, it doesn't take long once you get everything set up on these either, so.
And the purpose of putting it on a hard surface is that the tool doesn't move as you're doing that. Because if the tool moves, you're gonna wind up changing your belt.
Yeah, that's gonna help me, cause I stuck it under my elbow and it's fairly still, but it's not still like that would be.
And most of those are about a credit card size.
Yeah, literally a credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah, Woodcraft makes a little one that's like a little fingernail file thing, and that's really handy to use.
Yeah.
I use, in one of my other woodworking applications, I use card scrapers a lot, and I have burnishing tools for those card scrapers. And they'll put a great, hook on a skew, and do it really sometimes better than CB or the diamond card. For me, I've got both of those, but I use the burnishing tool a lot.
Yeah. Well, they say the stone type wheels actually put a better burr on.
Oh, it will.
Than the CBN, and some of the professional turners only use the stones for that reason. But they're over there, and like you said, most of them, or a lot of them, freehand are sharpening. But that's how they learn, and they do it day after day after day. You can get good at it. You know, most of us are out in the shop maybe a couple hours a week or something, aren't going to be proficient at doing the hand sharpening.
Last thing, and then we'll turn it over to the professional. You got any in mind? I got one. When you're using this or something like this, don't put your hand up here like this. Okay, you keep your hand away. I grab it here. I grab it here. And that's how I rotate it, okay? Keep your hands out of the works, in other words, and that goes without saying. But I've seen people come up here, and not here, but in other shops and things, and they're just grinding away. I thought, do you not appreciate your knuckles? You know, your insurance is better than mine, I suppose. But I just grab it back here, and a lot of times I'll put it against my body, just for the consistency. The last thing, and I know you're glad, I am, lighting. We never discussed lighting in the shop. Not lightning, lighting. I've got a special light, just like this one, and I want to see. I want to, because you can pick up a micro bevel. You can see things that aren't supposed to be there. Okay, you want it to mirror. You want it to just be as slick as you can. Also, it just keeps your area well lit where you're aware of it. Because in my shop, it's like this. I'm turning wood. When I get ready to sharpen, I do that. Then I'm back. But if it's not well lit, you may just come on into it. And I was taught a lesson by my dentist. She's a wonderful dentist. But she worked on your tooth. Your dentist may do the same, I don't know, but she's working, and then when she turns to get something, she takes her finger and puts it on the tooth that she's working and gets something, and then comes. I said, why are you doing that? She said, I don't want to go on the wrong tooth. I thought, I'm going to add that to my woodworking. I'm not going to put my finger on it, but I want to know where it's at. In other words, you know. And I've tried to light my shop up as best I can. It's not perfect, but it works for me. Done.
Two other things. An incandescent light bulb is better than a fluorescent light bulb. You can see better with it.
I agree with that.
The other thing, when you're setting your tool sharpening rig up, try to set it up at the same height as what your lathe is. So when you're here like this, and you turn around, you're at the same angle.
Same thing.
You turn back here, you're still at the same angle. You're not going up like this or down like this or back over here and changing. You're doing the same.
It goes back to that word consistency. And that's the way, I literally have to just pivot. You know, my lathe is on wheels where I can get as close or as far away from whatever. You know, I just need that consistency because I'm not in the shop enough now to just work every day like I used to. So, any questions at all? Yes, sir.
You know what your answer is when you're gouge gets too short for your jig to clamp on the flute,
What would that
Then
be?
you do it freehand.
it's time to throw it away. I know that, but has anybody found a way to clamp on the round?
You can grind that flat.
Grind it flat.
That's an
I knew
idea.
somebody would answer that question.
Like I said, you could've got somebody smarter than I, so, but that's a good
But you got
idea.
to grind it flat with
With the flute.
With the flute, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Did this help anybody at all? Any more questions? I mean, we got, any more discussion?
What were you saying, buddy?
I said, mine's almost there, I've been using the same one for 20 years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I sent Gerald that template for all those
Okay.
grinds, so that can be on the
He'll fix it.
website. They were, I took a plywood, just quarter inch plywood and just, I glued the PDF to that and cut it out.
Mhm.
And, I don't use it very often because you're not setting this stuff up, like you say, you just hold it. But it's got those 7-inch, it's got for several different depths
Good deal.
and sharp.
If we had another week and somebody else to talk about it, we could talk about the metallurgy of tools. They're putting palladium, cobalt, they put chromium, there's all kinds of tools. And every company is different. Packard's a little different than Doug Thompson, Sorby, they're all different. Every one of them, Hurricane tools, they're all different. They're specific. Some powder coat their tools. That makes no difference. Why don't you powder coat it? You're gonna grind it off anyway, Roy?
I've been in and out, you probably addressed this already, but did you say anything about dressing or cleaning your CBN wheel?
No, I didn't. You can get a, for lack of a term, is a what?
Slick stick.
Slick stick, and it'll debris.
Well, that doesn't clean it, that's what you put on after clean, I'm sorry. Have you ever?
What I use is the same thing I use on my belt grinders, that rubber. I use that on there, just touch it and it takes it off, and then you can get the slick stick that he's talking about.
Do they recommend anything?
If you go to Woodturning Wonders and look, he's got some videos.
Yeah, he
Since
gives you that.
and that's where that wheel came from, and this one too, probably. He's probably
You
the
think-
biggest seller of them.
Do you
And he
think
has
that-
an excellent video on cleaning them.
Does he use the rubber thing?
No.
or-
What he does, and I think what he used is called PB Blaster. You can get it at Lowe's or Home Depot, and it's penetrating oil. And what he does in that video is he sprays a small section, takes a wire brush, not a real heavy one, but kind of a fine one, and he scrubs that area and goes all the way around the wheel, and it gets all the stuff out of the grip. And then he sells that slick stick. I just bought one for the first time, and it really does seem to help. You turn the wheel on, and you just lightly run it across there, very light.
Is that
And-
only if you're used to grind a softer metal than the
Well,
high-speed steel? 'Cause you're not supposed to.
Over a period of time, even though this is a very fine grind, that steel's going somewhere, right? And
Yeah, it does build up in those
it
wheels.
will build up, it definitely will, and I've not had much trouble with mine. I think I've bumped it a time or two just for
Yeah.
general purposes.
But
What's the Irish Turner Lucas?
Glenn Lucas,
Glenn Lucas.
He changes his wheels every year.
his CBN.
He changes
Well,
them
yeah,
every
but
year.
he does more in a year than we'll do in 20.
Yeah.
Trim fluid will help too. Trim makes a sharpening fluid, but it's basically kerosene. Mike Peace has a video about making your own. So,
But
If
yeah,
you have any
just
more questions, go to YouTube, that's all
careful what you get there. But, and I don't know if you covered this, Tim, or not, but grinding aluminum,
I did not.
do not grind aluminum especially on the stone wheels, because it'll build up in there and cause them to literally explode.
well,
So,
it'll build up on the CBN too, but it can be cleaned off, but it's very difficult. It takes
Yeah.
a long time.
so don't grind aluminum on your wheels, and make sure you wear a face shield. And again, I apologize, I was in and out checking on
Nothing to
stuff there.
apologize for, I'm the one who should apologize.
I actually wear my respirator when I'm sharpening, because you get all that fine dust. I don't want to inhale that. That can be also be bad for you if you do a lot. So wear a face mask and at least safety glasses, if not a face shield. Highly recommend a face shield because especially if you have a stone wheel, that goggles may protect your eyes, but the rest of your face is going to get hurt if it's a stone wheel. If those things shatter,
It's
they're
terrible.
horrible.
How often do people say, you know, what's the history on shattering wheels?
Probably more than you know. I don't know anybody that's
Yeah,
got it,
I
but
don't know anybody personally, but if you think about it, at that speed with a rock hitting you in the
yeah.
head, they may not be alive to tell you what happened.
and like he said, he's bumped his. You know, you bump one of those stone wheels with the tip of your tool or something, you're good chance.
You could blow it up.
Sam told me a story about that the other day. When he first started turning, or sometime in that neighborhood, he went to a demo and this guy that was demonstrating hit the wheel with his gouge in the wrong way and exploded. And not 6 minutes later, he did it again. Now, he was okay, it didn't hurt him, but it could hurt you.
Yeah.
By the way, there on Thompson's website, there's bars up on the side, click on those, and there's some a video in there, and I'm going to link to it on the website. He has an excellent video about the metallurgy of tools and sharpening.
His way of sharpening, yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah, his way. It's well worth watching.
There was somebody a number of years ago that recommended using the side of the wheel to sharpen. And oh man, it's
Not on a
stupid.
stone.
No,
If you
not a
notice
stone.
these.
Now you've got the
Yeah.
CBN that
Well, you
has a place.
also notice this does not have a guard on it because these will not explode, the CBN wheels. Do not ever turn or sharpen or run your grinder without the shroud on a stone wheel.
Because all that shroud does is make sure it comes